AEW All In 2023 live from Wembley Stadium is in the books, and that was a pretty amazing show. Had a blast watching it. Wow, great stuff from All Elite Wrestling tonight. We have a ton of stuff to get into, not only the results of the show, but of course, even more CM Punk drama that took place while the show was going on. We're going to talk about all of that here today. But before we do, I just want to say congratulations to Tony Khan, AEW, and the entire roster there. Amazing job tonight, and just seeing that crowd, a crowd that large, that may or may not have set an attendance record tonight. Doesn't really matter if they did or not. The crowd was huge, and to see a wrestling event not promoted by Vince McMahon drawing a audience like that is not something you see every day. And I fully intended on appreciating that above all else today, is the fact that they were able to accomplish that. A company that's only 4 years old, able to put that many people into a building, a number that WWE themselves has only been able to crack a couple of times, that 80,000 number. And they did it in their first 4 years of existence. And the crowd looked like they had a great time tonight. Maybe the show wasn't perfect. We're going to go through the ups and downs. I already see a lot of good grades in the chat here. Give me your number or letter grades, by the way, A, B, C, or D, 1 through 10. Let me know what you thought. Pros, cons, highs, lows, what they could have done better, what they did great. They definitely had like a WrestleMania feel. I will say that, because I wasn't sure the vibe of the show. I wasn't sure if they were going to go for like more of a Wrestle Kingdom look or if they were going to go for a WrestleMania look. And it definitely turned out to be a more of a WrestleMania look. I was kind of hoping they were going to do like a big long entrance ramp that went straight to the ring and connected to the ring type of thing. But instead they went with a more WWE style approach in their set design here with the big LED boards. And I love the entrance way coming through there. A lot of lighting, a lot of pyro, a lot of special entrances, and Tony Khan ponied up for a lot of music tonight as well. Queen, Metallica, among others. Pretty amazing stuff from All Elite Wrestling. They really put their best foot forward, I think, at least from a production standpoint. And there was a lot to like about this show in terms of what we saw in the ring, the stories that developed, especially the ending, the main event with MJF and Adam Cole. And I think they still did a pretty good job of building issues to next week's pay-per-view, which is 1 week from today, All Out in Chicago. That's going to see a lot of fallout from a lot of this stuff. So I think, all things considered, tonight's show was a success. They had some great matches. I wasn't sure about some of this talent being in front of a stage this big, how they'd perform, but everybody came through and delivered well. Really, really fun moments throughout the show. Great tag match with FTR and the Bucks. The coffin match was way more fun than it needed to be. Jericho and Ospreay over-delivered. There was a lot of that type of stuff going on. And, maybe there was a couple of things that I would have booked differently as well. My predictions, by the way, were shit. Probably one of the worst performances I've ever had predicting a pay-per-view was this one. I got a lot of matches wrong here, but none of them that I was terribly upset about, because I liked most of the outcomes. I think maybe I was expecting a little bit more in the main event. I predicted a big Adam Cole heel turn. But once they won those Ring of Honor tag team titles in the beginning, it was starting to look like that might not be what's going to happen. We're just going to have to wait and see type of thing. But we're going to go through it all here, and we're going to talk about the show. And we're going to go kind of right in order here, because once the main card starts, that's when the CM Punk and Jungle Boy confrontation happened, apparently. So we will discuss what we know about that and whose fault it may or may not be. But pretty interesting situation there. Again, more drama, more behind the scenes bullshit that we've heard way too much from AEW, and it always seems like there's one name in the middle of it every single time, and that is, who, our boy Phil. But we will talk about that in just a second. Let's shoot the shit first, knock out some super chats, see what you guys had to say about the show, and then we will get into the results here, starting with the 0 hour, and a couple of matches set for that, a couple of title matches and title changes that we saw on the 0 hour. So a lot was going on right from the word go this morning. And I live in California, of course. I'm in San Diego, so I had to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock if I wanted to catch the full pre-show. But I got up right at 9 o'clock when the fans were mostly in the building and the 0 hour was going to start. But I think the pre-show itself started an hour earlier than that. So I had to drag my ass up, but I didn't want to be a whiny, spoiled brat, entitled American complaining that I had to get up at an inconvenient time to watch wrestling when everybody over across the pond has to do that all the time, has to get up, super early or stay up very late to watch these things. We do it once and we're bitching. I don't think we've got any right to complain, but it is hard for me, who's not a morning person, to drag my ass up to watch wrestling and prepare for a podcast later today. But I did it. I had a great time. It was fun. Ate some cinnamon rolls this morning, as I watched Adam Cole and MJF win the Ring of Honor tag team titles. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Anyway, good to see everybody here in the chat this afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. Please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me. If you don't mind subscribing, that would be great too. Before this stream is over, we will probably hit 39,000 subscribers. And then the next milestone after that is the big 4-0. So that's what we're shooting for. Subscriptions and likes would be very much appreciated there. Let's go to the chat and say hello to everybody. And then we will get to cooking here because I might be kind of opinionated about the CM Punk and Jungle Boy stuff, but I'm going to be fair because from what we understand, there is one side of this that does appear like Jungle Boy was in the wrong here, and if that's the case, he deserves any consequences that come to him. But the fact that this happened at all is what I have more of a problem with, rather than placing blame on one of the two individuals. The fact that this is even happening on your biggest show, right before you're going out to the ring, no less. It's just that's a level of risk and unprofessionalism that I don't think anybody should be dealing with or doing right now. And it just did not look good for the company, doesn't paint them in a good light, and just more embarrassing shit from All Elite Wrestling. They got to get a handle on this stuff. So I will talk about that in a minute, but let's say hello to our friends like Steven Taylor chiming in with his first ever super chat. Appreciate that, my friend. Greg, this event has been unbelievable. I believe you were at the show, correct? I hope it was a blast, man. It looked like, from what I could tell, a lot of our listeners that were there, some of our friends in the community that were there, looks like everybody had a great time. I saw a lot of live videos from the show, a lot of pictures. Looks like everything was a blast and everybody had a really good time. And I haven't heard any negative fan experiences yet from the show, but everybody still has to travel home and get through traffic too. So we'll see how all that works out for London. Excuse me. Divine Ricks, it's good to see you back. Welcome back, my friend. Thank you so much for that $5. Hey, Greg and friends, this pay-per-view was much needed after a horrible week. I hear you. In wrestling, I give AEW All In a 10 out of 10. I appreciate pro wrestling. That's a very generous grade. I'm not sure if I'm going to go quite as high as 10, but I appreciate your positivity there, because after the week that we had, the loss of Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk in 1 week, and Bray Wyatt especially, which was really shocking, and a lot of people really haven't still processed that yet. Today was a much needed break from all of that. It was more of a celebration. I just thought it was cool, that AEW was putting on a show this large. It's just mind blowing to me. And that was a nice break from that. I was ready to move on to some more positive stuff today and to enjoy some wrestling. And I'm proud to say that I did. And my $49.99 was earned. Every penny of it was well spent. It was a really, really solid show. Thanks for the message, Divine. Good to see Red Raven Rucker, Jeff McMahon, and Zach Palgett, and JJ Legg hanging out. Zelius Ward is in the house as well. The Juliet, our friend, is here. Chris Barrera, you give it an 8 out of 10. I see another 8 out of 10 from Big MJM and JJ Legg. 9 out of 10 from Jeff. 8.5 from Zach. You guys are all giving it really, really solid grades. Big J, good to see you too. Esco the Goat, Jungle Jackoff got choked the F out. Well, let's start sucking our own dicks just yet. And let's just wait and see what the whole story is. I know that's what you want to be true. Let's make sure it actually is before you start whacking off there, Escargo, or whatever the hell your name is. Angie Law, good to see you. Chris Ludeck, 5-month member. That ending kind of gave me SummerSlam 92 vibes. Oh, yeah, I guess. I can see that. I didn't even put that together. Brett and Davey after the match. There was a title change there. Diana in the middle, the celebration. Yeah, that's true. For some reason, I was thinking it was more along the lines of, like the Royal Rumble this year. It felt like at the end of that match that maybe AEW was trying to go for the big storyline angle at the end. And instead, we just got the brochacho hug. There was no turn or anything like that, but it seemed like there was a lot of post-match activities after the main event that I thought maybe they were going for more of a storyline way to close the show. But I didn't even think about the connection to SummerSlam 1992 with Brett and Davey, who still remain brothers-in-law after that match. But yeah, good point, Chris. David Brown, good to see you. Andrew T, also good to see you. Max Pokebra in the house, appreciate that. You are saying a B. C plus from Andrew, B from Max. I kind of agree with both of you, but I think I agree with Max more. I'm going to go B. I can't give it an A. I can't, and I'll tell you why later. But B for sure. The show was still very, very good. Hopefully Saraya gets a short title reign. Yeah, you know, we're going to talk about Saraya. That was definitely, and I knew it too. I mean, I had her on my thumbnail and the overlay here for days because you just knew what we know about Tony Khan too. You know, he's a fan at the end of the day. And, you know, knowing what we know about him, it felt like to me that Saraya was a shoo-in. The fact that she's, you know, in London, she's going to have her family there. She's in her home country. She's just returned after a comeback after having to retire due to a neck injury. Tony Khan seems like the type of guy that would want to give Saraya this moment. And when she was making her entrance, came out to Queen, "We Will Rock You," I said, this is going to be a manufactured moment. I'm happy for her. Don't get me wrong. I am thrilled for Saraya. By the way, Mercedes Moné was in the crowd tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. But that would imply that Mercedes is going to come in, and I kind of think it would be nice for Saraya and Mercedes if they were able to have a match together, because it was Sasha Banks that Paige was in the ring with when she got injured that second time, and it might just be kind of cathartic or closure for both women to be able to do that match, maybe relieve some of the guilt that Mercedes might have been living with for a few years, to see Saraya back in the ring, not only in the ring, but as a champion. You know, and maybe that's a match that TK wants to book Saraya and Mercedes, just so they can have that match and just they can have that moment together. So it's hard for me to have a problem with that, but at the same time, there were some head-scratching decisions in the booking of this. You know, it felt like they went out of their way to almost make Sheeta look bad when you could have just booked Saraya and Toni Storm one-on-one and done the title change there instead of convoluting it with a four-way. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll talk about that match when we get to it. At the end of the day, Saraya is your new AEW Women's Champion. It's impossible to not be happy for her, but you also have to be realistic and realize that there's some problems there. And tonight did not help the women's division in AEW. WWE and AEW both need to get on the ball with their women's division. They are both, with the exception of Rhea Ripley, who I'm just, you know, head over heels in love with the exception of her, you know, neither division is really getting my juices flowing right now. And that is a shame because there's way too many good women on both rosters for it to feel that way. So that's a problem in AEW, and it might continue to be going forward after tonight. Mike Rouse, good to see you as well. We've got Damon Smith and Jay Lambo chiming in with $9.99. Good to see you back, my friend. Love seeing Mercedes Moné in the crowd. Hope that means she's going to be in AEW. Also, loved Saraya winning the women's title in London, where she's from. Good. You just mentioned exactly what I just talked about a minute ago, and having Mercedes in the crowd, acknowledging that she's there, showing her on camera, and even the guy behind her going, whatever that guy's doing to his chest, hysterical. You know, you wouldn't have her there, show her, if maybe you're not going to bring her in. So I feel like it's likely that Mercedes is coming in. I hope she is. Chris, appreciate the 10 from you, dude. I wish as a company talent could get out of their own way with the Punk and Jack Pete incident. People may say Punk was a scrub in UFC, but a trained person will always outfight an untrained one. Trust me. And Chris, you would know. And that's the thing. Like I've talked about Punk. I'm like, he needs to win a fight. Finally, it sounds like he might have actually won a fight tonight. And in the UFC, he's nothing, but in a backstage scuffle with a young kid, he can probably fuck him up if he wanted to. So that sounded like it did not go Jungle Jack's way. That's for sure. But we're going to talk about that whole situation here in just a second. Tomas Aridia, welcome back, dude. Appreciate the 5. Half of the audience was AI that Tony Khan paid for. Get with the program, Greg. I know that bullshit number. Everybody knows there was only 15,000 people. Here's a fun fact for you. There has never been 5 trillion angry butthurt tweets about a provably false WWE attendance record. Anytime they've done a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam in a stadium and they've got on the mic and they've announced the attendance, not once did you see Twitter shit its pants and eat it. But that's what you saw today. Everybody's all up in arms trying to debate the number. All of a sudden, like, what the fuck is, get lives, get real problems. Tony Khan bought the tickets. It's AI. Or, my God, is this how you want to spend your time? Is this a valuable use of your time? being a butthurt bitch over the audience. Not you, Tomas, but everybody else. But I was laughing, reading social media. I was like, I don't know. They're showing like sections of the upper deck behind the entrance that are like empty. Look, there's only 30 people there. I'm like, what possesses someone to just refuse to give any credit or props to a company that, believe it or not, did something pretty goddamn special today, regardless of what that number is. You know, WWE inflates and exaggerates every damn thing they do, especially attendance. You know, here we have one show that AEW's done. The tickets have been tracked for weeks. You can look this stuff up. It's public record. See how many tickets are sold. The attendance number announced tonight pretty much matches the publicly tracked ticket sales that we've seen up until this point. Where's the debate? You know, when it really gets down to the nut-cutting bare bones of it and counting every single human soul, is it going to match exactly what they said tonight? Probably not. But it's probably far more accurate than any number that WWE has ever publicly announced ever. So where's the outrage there? I don't know, but who knows what the actual number is going to be. But the fact that fans are so invested in debating this just does not give me hope for the future with wrestling fans. They have got outrageous whacked priorities. Tomas, 2 more, go away, Phil. Maybe, man. Michael Kumo's in the house as well. So is Victor Colon. We got Alexander Fitzgerald, David Robinson, right on. I was a big fan of you when you played for the Spurs. Damon Smith in the house as well. Alexander Fitzgerald with the $2. FTR versus Young Bucks was match of the night. That is a question I meant to ask earlier. Let me know what you thought the match of the night was. It's hard to disagree with that. I liked Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho way more than I thought I would. And it really just shows how stupidly talented Ospreay is. It's scary almost. Green P is here as well. Jordan Smith, I think I got you. Arthur Jones, Super Fluffy Toaster with an 8.5. Jeffrey Giordano is here as well. Spaz Phoenix in the $2. Punk, MJF, Cole at All Out. Maybe. I feel like they're gearing up for a champion versus champion type of match, and I don't know if you want a 3-way in there. But based on the outcome of the match tonight, it felt like they did leave the door open for Cole and MJF to battle again, especially since they're still Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and the Brochacho Alliance is going to continue on TV. That means that it could lead to a title match, but it might not right away. Maybe MJF works with Punk, and then you've got Adam Cole kind of lurking, you know, maybe there to help MJF or maybe turn on him, help CM Punk. That could be one way to get CM Punk the championship, is to have Adam Cole turn on MJF in the MJF and Punk match. Might be one way to do it. I don't know. But I don't know if I would do a 3-way since we've got the Punk belt spray painted. I feel like that just sets up a one-on-one matchup. And you got one belt versus one belt. So I don't know if I do a 3-way right away. And plus that's 1 week away too. You know, you get Punk and Adam Cole in the ring for the first time. I kind of want more than 6 days to build that, or less, since Dynamite is not until Wednesday. So I don't know if they'd pull that out or pull that off by then. But they're going to have to do something at All Out, and they're going to have to announce that and figure it out on Wednesday. So we should know pretty soon what the hell they're going to do. 7th season. Anybody else? Ahmed chiming in to say hello. Good to see you. Welcome to your AEW All In 2023 review. Live from Wembley Stadium. Official attendance for this thing was 81,035. That was what Nigel and McGuinness announced to the live crowd there. Amazing visual of the crowd, just a stadium that full. The set looked pretty good. They had the canopy over the ring, nice long entrance, a lot of good LED treatments. The building was lit very well. The production stuff looked good. All the special entrances looked good. They sounded good. You know, the pyro was all pulled off well. Tony Khan spent a lot of money on pyro tonight, that's for sure. I think we had 7 or 8 different instances of pyro, and a lot of that was going off outside the building with an aerial shot of that. So none of that stuff is cheap, not to mention ponying up for Metallica, Queen. Everything else they did here tonight was really well executed from a production standpoint. Wrestling, also very well executed, maybe just with a few booking decisions that I personally would have done differently, but I'm just a stupid fucking fan. What do I know? I don't work there. So who am I to say? But let's start getting into the results. We're going to start with the 0 hour. Renee Paquette opened the pre-show with a really nice Wyndham Rotundo quote, which I thought was very nice and very beautiful. Like I said earlier, they also showed Mercedes Moné in the crowd. Now, she was already taking photos all around London and posting them on social media. So I was kind of wondering, we speculated in the predictions if she was going to show up somewhere or confront somebody. She didn't do that. Instead, she was just in the crowd, but they showed her, they acknowledged her, and that is really exciting because that pretty much guarantees, I would think, that they're going to bring Mercedes Moné in at some point. And I think she was probably already due to come in when she got injured. So now being able to get this done, you combine the fact that Saraya is now the champion. Maybe that's a match you can do. That would be really awesome if they did that. But the first match on the 0 hour was actually for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. Aussie Open defending against MJF and Adam Cole. And right off the bat, my predictions are off to a terrible start. I thought for sure Aussie Open would get the win here. There would be some sort of an angle, maybe Roderick coming down to cost them the match, or maybe they would do an injury angle to put somebody at a disadvantage in the main event. Whatever happened, I thought it was going to be an Aussie Open win that would lead to speculation of, oh, how's this match going to go later based on whatever happened in that match. But it didn't go that way. It went the opposite direction. We got a kangaroo kick, devastating move, and a double clothesline for the win. MJF and Adam Cole beat Aussie Open. I can't remember who got kicked and who got pinned, if it was Fletcher or the other one, but MJF and Adam Cole actually did win the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, and that surprised me. And because that means they're now going to be going into the main event as tag team champions, and in my head, I'm thinking, well, if I have this idea of Adam Cole turning heel, because I still feel like that's the best, if one of them is going to turn on the other, I'd prefer it to be Adam Cole, because I think that would take it in a different direction. It would be new to see MJF on the other side of this. And I thought, they would do stuff in this match that would lead and plant the seeds for that happening later. But since they won the tag team championships, I'm like, oh crap, that means they're likely just going to have a regular match, and they're going to continue this alliance between the two that has been really successful and very, very entertaining. And I could understand why they don't really want to end that yet. But as we've seen in WWE with the Bloodline, when you do that, you do run the risk of jumping the shark and letting it go too long. And I think WWE's got to find an exit strategy for the Bloodline, because it does not appear like they have one at all. And with MJF and Cole, I can understand them wanting to run with this a little bit more because of how successful it is, but don't let it end on a whimper. You should still have some sort of a big swerve or a big turn or some sort of a big shock to culminate here whenever MJF loses that belt. I think Adam Cole should be involved in some way. If he's not in the match, then be involved in the finish or something there has got to happen. And I just think having MJF just do the typical thing where he turns and uses Adam Cole like he does to everybody else just isn't the right story there. I think this has to have something to do with Adam Cole. And you could see that in the main event later, as we'll talk about, when both guys were struggling to decide to use a weapon against each other, and MJF, a couple of times he was weeping, in the match because he just couldn't decide. And he was really struggling with, the idea of hurting someone who he truly loves. And, that's a great story. And that's why I kind of thought it would be awesome if MJF got screwed, and to see that side of him, the vulnerable side, who got taken advantage of and now has to deal with the consequences of that. I was kind of expecting to see that in the main event, but since they won the tag team championships here, it didn't seem like it was possible unless they still did the big heel turn, and Adam Cole forms the new empire with Roddy and Taven and Bennett. And then Adam Cole gives Taven and Bennett the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. These are yours now. And then they got all the gold in Cole's new faction. But we didn't get that yet. We'll talk about what happened in the main event. But in the 0 hour, we saw new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions crowned, the Brochachos, MJF and Adam Cole. The other championship match that took place on the 0 hour was an interesting one, to say the least. Jungle Boy defending his FTW championship against Hook. So Hook comes out first, and then Jungle Boy follows, and he shows up in a limousine. So we get special entrances all throughout the night here. This is a very JBL type of entrance where he comes in and on the limo there, and it stays by the entranceway. So then we get the match starting. They're brawling everywhere. They wind up brawling on the limo. They're taking bumps on the roof of the limo. And then Jungle Boy takes hook and slams him through the windshield. And then he looks right at the camera and slaps the glass and he goes, "Look, real glass, cry me a river." And I'm like, what the fuck was that referencing? And everybody was like, oh my God, shots fired at Punk. And I'm like, what is he talking about there? And then I remembered, you guys reminded me of that story from a couple of weeks ago, because I knew there was something going on with MJF with CM Punk and Jungle Boy. I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what the argument was or what it was about. It was about Jungle Boy's desire, apparently, to use real glass in a pre-tape on Collision. And Punk apparently told him, we don't do that here, and refused it or something, as if he has the authority to do that. Maybe he does. And then even went on to speculate that Jungle Boy wanted to do that so he could take a vacation or he could get time off or something or whatever it was. And so this apparently pissed off Jungle Boy, and he gave CM Punk a public receipt on camera. And I was like, huh. So anyway, match continues. Jungle Boy loses. He taps out to the Red Rum in the middle of the ring. Hook is your new FTW champion. And that is the end of the 0 hour. Then the main card starts, and the first match we're going to get on the show is CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. So now All In has began. It's time for the first match. And as CM Punk is making his entrance, I see a tweet from Sean Ross Sapp that says, and I quote, "There was a physical confrontation between Jack and Punk before Punk came out." And mentioned that working to get more details. So that's all we knew, was that there was a physical confrontation right before CM Punk's opening match in front of 81,000 people against Samoa Joe. So my first instinct was, okay, Jungle Boy made that comment on camera. Punk is pissed, and Punk confronted him about it. And what I didn't like about it, and of course this was me assuming, because that's just what I think anybody would assume. Jungle Boy shot first on camera. You hear about a confrontation. You wouldn't think that Jungle Boy would be the aggressor. It would probably be the other way around. Punk showing up and saying, hey, what the fuck? What was that about? And the two getting into an argument. It just seemed like logic that that's the way this would have gone down if a confrontation did in fact take place. And my issue with this was, okay, because I know how fans love to this "you started" stuff, because we're all fucking five. I still hear people talking about how Hangman Page started. Hangman Page, who hasn't said a fucking word in 14 months about any of this stuff, they're still like, well, he said workers' rights. And I'm like, that's long gone now. CM Punk is, went off on the scrum and the counterfeit bucks, and then flipping out on Hangman Page and his action figure line on Collision 2 weeks ago when the show went off the air. There's been a lot more of this than Punk than there has been from Hangman. So if Jungle Boy went into business for himself there, tried to make CM Punk look bad or referenced some sort of internet story on camera, and Punk is mad about that, fine. Punk actually kind of has a right to be mad about that, I suppose. But you are in your gear. You are about to walk out there in front of 81,000 people in the company's biggest show ever. It's not like Punk was on later. It's not like Punk has already had his match. He was heading to the fucking ring. And he allows this to happen, or he confronts Jack Perry. And I posted on Twitter the clip of the old commercial, the old "don't use drugs" commercial with the kid, and the dad's showing him the pot or whatever. He's like, "Tell me, where did you learn how to do this?" And the kid goes, "I learned it from watching you." That's what I mean. Jungle Boy is he's just learned from CM Punk. He's just doing what you have been doing, constantly taking shots or talking shit on the mic or whatever. He just did what you taught him to do, is pretty much the way I saw that. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, Punk is going to confront Jack, but let's just give you a hypothetical here. Let's say Punk confronts Jack Perry. There's arguing. It gets physical. People jump in to break it apart. And in the melee, much like the same thing happened to Vince McMahon when Bret Hart punched him out, in the melee trying to pull everybody apart, somebody steps on CM Punk's ankle and breaks it. Breaks his ankle. He can't walk. His music's playing. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? Luckily, nothing like that happened, but it could have. And imagine that blow, your biggest show of all time, the biggest show you're ever going to do. And on the very first match, The first person to come out can't even make it out to the ring because he just got in a fight backstage with more of this elementary school bullshit. And that could have happened. And what would have happened had something like that gone down? What if it's a big risk to take? Luckily, like I said, nothing happened, but it could have. And what if it did? Imagine the blow. Imagine what a terrible way to start the show off. Imagine what a terrible way to start the show off. What would a Samoa Joe have done? How would they have called that audible? What the hell would they have done? So I just think that's pretty ballsy and a pretty incredible risk to take for Punk to even want to get involved in something like that right before he's heading to the ring. It seems like a professional would say, if I punch this asshole, that's going to get leaked. People are going to find out about it, and it's going to distract from the show. It's going to distract from what we're trying to do here tonight. As a leader, it would be irresponsible to do that. So I'm going to confront the little prick after the show. It's that easy. But then we started hearing things that perhaps Jungle Boy was the aggressor, that Jungle Boy stepped to Punk, that Jungle Boy got in Punk's face. If that's the case, then Punk is absolutely in the right. Jungle Boy was the one that not only said the shit on camera, but then he's going to walk backstage and get in his face too. If Punk defended himself there, then Punk is in the right. We really don't know. Fightful Select does have a report on this that was updated, I believe, twice. Here's what Fightful Select had to say earlier on about the situation. And I quote, "Details are few and far between at the moment, but we have learned that Jack Perry and CM Punk had an altercation shortly before CM Punk went to the ring for his AEW All-In match. Jack Perry was on right before him and did a spot on a car window and said, 'It's real glass, cry me a river.' This was a shot at Punk, who had a confrontation at an AEW Collision taping this summer over Perry's insistence on using real glass for a spot on the show. We're told Perry wasn't happy with how the situation was relayed publicly by those close to Punk." So that's important there. It's not the fact that Perry was upset that Punk didn't want him to use glass. It was how the story got out and relayed to the sheets and stuff, and how it was perceived, I guess, is the way is what made him mad. This is the same type of shit that CM Punk got mad about too, right? Didn't we hear all that last year? He didn't like the Bucks and talking to the friends and the way they were trying to manipulate the internet reports about CM Punk. This feels like it's the exact same fucking thing here, just on the other side of it. The report goes on to say, "We have learned at least one side of the story, which claims that Jack Perry approached CM Punk backstage and stepped in his face and bumped Punk. Punk was said to have then pushed Perry. Perry allegedly came at Punk and got choked. We haven't heard of a particular kind of choke or who broke things up. So before you start whacking off to this, let's just make sure this is actually true first before you go too nuts here. Please note, this is only one side of the story, and more details will emerge." It goes on to say that Miro has claimed the story was, quote, "fake and untrue," and other versions allege that Punk threw a punch and that Punk stepped to Perry first. So again, it's conflicting reports. PW Insider has reported that Jack Perry was sent away from the venue and CM Punk is still at Wembley. So that implies it was Jack's fault. If they sent him home and let Punk stay, that means Perry might have very well been the aggressor in this. It goes on to say, "We've reached out to both CM Punk and Jack Perry for their sides to clear up a misconception regarding their prior argument. Perry trying to not come to work the next week. We're told he had a pre-planned and approved vacation." So this idea that he was trying to use real glass to get out of work, he had already had a pre-approved vacation, and the two were completely unrelated. And Fightful said that they will follow up here with any additional details as they learn them. And I don't think any additional details have been reported in the last hour, but it's conflicting. And, when you look at both sides of that, from the... so nothing new here from Fightful Select. From Punk's perspective, if the story is correct about Jack stepping to Punk, then, that's pretty messed up, especially if CM Punk's on his way out to the ring to open the show, have a match with Samoa Joe. He already had this kid taking a shot at him on the pre-show. Now you're going to cross paths with him backstage and he's going to step to you. You might have to whoop his ass. So Punk might be in the right if that's what happened. That's very important. Don't just decide which one's right because that's the side you want to be on. Just get the facts. That's all it is. You just have to get the facts. And in this case, if the story about Jack Perry stepping to Punk is true, Jack Perry got everything he deserved. He deserved to get choked out. He deserved to get beat up. He deserved to get sent out of the building. Fair enough. But if it's the other way around and Punk saw what Jungle Boy said and got pissed about that, you've got bigger fish to fry right now. You're about to open the show in a championship match against Samoa Joe, one of the biggest matches you're ever going to have in your career. You haven't been in a stadium show since WrestleMania 29 back in 2013 against The Undertaker. This is a huge deal for you. This is a huge deal for your company. So if Jungle Boy did not step to Punk and he was not the aggressor in this at all, and it was Punk that confronted him, why are you doing that when you are seconds away from your music playing? That's when all of this shit about Punk talking about, I'm trying to run a business here. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are not trying to run a business here. Because if you were, you would know that doing that is extremely irresponsible, it's risky, and it's unprofessional. If you view something and believe something is unprofessional, don't handle it in an unprofessional way, because that's the whole argument. What Jungle Boy did, going off script there, something that probably was not talked about or approved or discussed, he did it on his own. There might actually be consequences coming for that. Tony Khan might suspend him for doing that. I would. If he went completely off like that, especially during a time when, there's already a lot of tense relationships backstage anyway, don't fan the flames, and, maybe it was Jungle Boy's frustration boiling over. A lot of people are frustrated with CM Punk and just the energy that he brings with him. But in this isolated incident, if you're just judging it in a vacuum, Jungle Boy was out of line to say what he said. And I think CM Punk was very much well within his rights to confront Jungle Boy about it, but it was the timing of it. If it does turn out, if we get the full story, we get multiple stories, and it becomes the belief that it was CM Punk that stepped to Perry first, that is extremely unprofessional of CM Punk. This was your chance to be the bigger person. This was your chance to let somebody else be the unprofessional one and let you conduct yourself professionally and fairly or like a man. Talk to him after the show. Even if you want to fight him after the show. But you shouldn't be trying to fight him when you are seconds away from going out there and having to deliver a match that 80,000 fans paid to see. And that's kind of where it gets murky for me. So in the opinion of Greg, it just depends on what the truth is. When all the facts come out, listen to us. It's like this is fucking soap opera shit. When all the facts come out, we find out who did what, who was the aggressor, who punched who first or pushed who first or whatever. Once we get that information from multiple sides and we start developing a real true story of what actually happened, then I think you just look at it logically. And the way I look at it is that if Jack Perry was the one that approached CM Punk after he did that, he deserved everything he got. If CM Punk was the one that approached Jack Perry, CM Punk was irresponsible, and that was not cool either. But at the end of the day, Jungle Boy was sent home, CM Punk's not. What does that tell you? It tells me that Jungle Boy might have been in the wrong here, and that's the way it's looking right now. But either way, regardless of who's in the wrong or who's in the right or whatever, the fact that there is just still so many bad feelings, the fact that Jungle Boy was in a match with Hook in front of a record-setting crowd, and what was on his mind was taking a shot at CM Punk. That's immature, and that's not what a professional does. And in that instance, Jungle Boy's wrong. But again, we're not dealing with a normal wrestler here. Punk is a very polarizing personality with a reputation. Any other situation like this, if Jungle Boy had some sort of argument with anybody else backstage and he pulled that little stunt on camera, I would immediately fault him for that. But the fact that it's CM Punk, it's part of you can kind of understand that Punk is divisive. And, they're even building 2 separate locker rooms. We might even be getting a 2 world championship deal here because that title actually was on the line tonight against Samoa Joe, and so everything that, he's doing to divide the locker room, we hear stories about how morale is better, but then you hear stories like this, and it sounds like, people are just letting their frustrations with CM Punk boil over, and the fact that Jack let that frustration boil over on a night when that should be the last thing on his mind. That's where I think everybody just needs to be a little more professional, a little bit more mature. This is getting ridiculous. It's embarrassing that these things are happening in the company, and they avoided disaster tonight. Like I said, because think about that scrum, what happened, the brawl after, everybody got suspended, and it was a huge fucking disaster. And something like that could have happened here. If the fight got more physical, or if CM Punk, God forbid, would have gotten hurt accidentally, not meaning Jungle Boy would have hurt him, but just in a pull apart. Samoa Joe's 340 pounds. What if he steps on your ankle and snaps it in the pull apart? And now you got a broken ankle and your music's playing. What the hell do you do? They were lucky. Because when you have stuff like this, that's how disasters happen. When you handle unprofessional situations unprofessionally, and nobody is the adult, and everybody is just, inmates running the asylum type of thing, that's when you can have disastrous outcomes. And they're lucky that nothing disastrous happened here. Punk, Jungle Boy, all you other fuckers, backstage, get your shit together, man. Tony Khan, show some leadership. I'm begging you. I don't even dislike Tony Khan as a promoter at all. He's got some issues, but what promoter doesn't? I'm just happy that he's a fan that loves the business and wants to spend any amount of money to make his company great. That's a good foundation to have. You can work out all his other issues later. Maybe he's booking too much like a fan. Okay. Who do you want him to book like then? Books too. You want to book like Eric Bischoff? Russo? What booker out there? Think of all the wrestling bookers. Who has been perfect? Paul Heyman has never been perfect. And he's considered one of the best minds ever. Vince McMahon is a fucking lunatic. Triple H is pretty good, but even Triple H has his problems. So all these comments like, oh, I don't know if Tony Khan's the right guy to run AEW. Well, then who the fuck is? Who out there could write TV so much better than Tony Khan? Come on. So, or at least does that job or want that job. Don't say Jim Cornette. He wouldn't even fucking want it or do it at all. But when you think about heads of creative throughout history, who is mountains above Tony Khan, really, at the end of the day? And I know the Booker of the Year shit is meaningless. I don't pay any attention to that. But people do vote for that. He's won it a couple of times. So how bad can he really be compared to everybody else? Does he have problems? Does he do shit that I wouldn't do? Do they have questionable booking decisions and questionable outcomes and issues with women's divisions and things like that? Of course. So did WCW, so did WWE, so did ECW, so does WWE right now, so did TNA. Everybody goes through this shit, and it's, I guess, it could be worse. So it's not really him from a booking or promoting perspective that I have an issue with. It's the fact that, unlike Vince McMahon, when he was at the helm, he was, people feared him, He had that Darth Vader type of, vibe to where he was intimidating. And he commanded that respect. And he was that authority role where he wasn't afraid to tell you no. And those are things that Tony Khan does not have, and unfortunately, we only have had one Vince at the end of the day. So, they need somebody there, I think, that has a little bit more authority and isn't trying to please everybody. At the end of the day, at some point, the responsibility falls on the talent as well. It's time for them to step up and be professional. And I think maybe they could. I think it's the fact that it's CM Punk. Because like I said earlier, we've seen lots of these type of stories, with Punk, go shooting off on the mouth about this or being pissed at this person or social media posts or arguments backstage or sending people home or you can't be here, you can't eat in catering. We've seen a lot of different names involved, but at the end of the day, there's always one common denominator. And one name, even in the revolving names that we see, one name remains constant in every story. That's CM Punk. So at what point, do you acknowledge that too? You can't ignore that his presence there is causing issues. But what can you do? We will see. What a crazy situation. I don't even know what to make of it. Sounds like Jack Perry got his little ass whooped. It's good for him. Everybody needs to get their ass kicked sometimes, It's good for you. So CM Punk might have taken him down, might have choked him out. He might not have. We don't really know. we'll monitor the story. I'm sure we'll talk about it again this week. And who knows, these guys, if Jungle Boy was sent home, are they staying at the same hotel? Are they going to be at the airport? Clearly, a conversation needs to be had here. Clearly, somebody needs to get suspended or reprimanded. You cannot, if you're Tony Khan, just let this slide, because that sets a terrible example. If you do that. So if Jungle Boy was in the wrong, he was sent home. And if it's confirmed that he not only started this, but also stepped to Punk right before Punk was about to step out in that aisleway in front of 80,000 people, it's grounds for release, if you ask me. Seriously. If that's that has to be true for that to happen. I'm just speculating. But if that's the story that we hear, and not only did Jack run off at the mouth on camera when it wasn't approved, but then got in CM Punk's face when he's trying to get to the ring, I'm sorry. You should be fired. You should. But I doubt that's what actually happened. If it is, sayonara, JB. We'll see. Don't know what to make of it. Embarrassing situation one way or the other, but you wouldn't know it from CM Punk's end, because he came right out to Cult of Personality, his old Ring of Honor Triple X jacket. Didn't look flustered or bothered or anything like that. He, in his head, he was probably like, oh, this is pretty sweet. I just whipped that boy's ass right backstage, and now I'm coming out here to the ring. But it was when he was making his entrance that Sean Ross Sapp had informed us of what happened. And now it's time for the match, CM Punk versus Samoa Joe for the Real World's Championship. And when Punk came out, there was noticeable boos in the audience. You heard it. It was very loud. Some cheers, but noticeable boos. I noticed the boos more than I noticed the cheers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I love heel CM Punk. He's great. So if he comes back, I'm all about that. One of the most innovative table spots I've ever seen happened on the outside of the ring. Samoa Joe's got basically like Punk's legs, like he's going to Cesaro swing him, and he swings him right into the side of the announce table. By the way, the announce booth is at ringside. It's Taz, Nigel McGuinness, and Excalibur. Jim Ross sat in a little bit for one or two matches as well. And he swings Punk into the side of the table, and the table, the side of it breaks, and he goes basically flying under the table. So he breaks through the wall of the table and hits Nigel McGuinness in his legs, basically. And it was a really cool spot because it looked good, and it allowed Punk to conceal his blading. He comes out from underneath there with a crimson mask. So the whole thing looked really good. It's a table bump and a table spot that I personally have never seen before. I thought it was really cool. They had a brutal match, man. I like this one a little bit better than the Owen tournament match. And I knew that CM Punk was going to get the win, because I figured with the whole Real World's Championship thing, we're heading towards a title for title match. He's not going to lose this here, but I wasn't sure if he was going to necessarily beat Samoa Joe clean either. He did, with, luckily, and I said this in the predictions, don't use the GTS in this match. It doesn't look good. The one you hit on Joe when you were the Golden Dragon or whatever looked like crap. And don't try that. Joe's too big. You're not strong enough. But instead, he hits Joe with a Pepsi plunge from the second rope, which did look good, and he got the win, retained his Real World's Championship, and Punk started out the show pretty good. I wasn't sure about this as an opener. I thought you'd want something a little bit more fast-paced, but this turned out to be very good. Good work from both guys, and probably pretty cool for the two of them to have this moment together with all their history dating back 20 years now, and being able to have this match front of 80,000. I thought it was pretty cool. I might have wanted a little bit more going on there in the match in terms of the lengths Punk went to get the win, but at the end of the day, good stuff. Probably a match that Punk needs to win if they're going to be pushing him towards a program with the world champion. And I thought it was a really, really good opener, but my mind was mostly on what went on backstage. Before we get into, or actually, let's talk about that match next, because unfortunately for these great wrestlers in the next match, the Golden Elite versus Jay Juice and Takeshita, I was so distracted by the Punk and Jungle Boy story. I spent most of this match reading about that. And I had predicted that it was a predictable match. The Golden Elite would win and Juice Robinson would take the pin. But I was wrong. It turned out to be Takeshita pinning Kenny Omega, which I love because I'm pretty sure they're going to do Kenny and Takeshita at All Out. So Takeshita getting the win here. Now you can put the two of them one-on-one in a week in Chicago at All Out. That match can steal the show, and Kenny can get the win there. And he'll probably finally hit successfully the one-winged angel on Takeshita. But unfortunately, the match itself, I was largely distracted from because of everything that we were learning about CM Punk and Jungle Boy. I was just, kind of glued to that, trying to figure out what the hell was going on with that situation. But let me see what you guys had to say about that before we get into what a lot of people said was the best match on the show. And if you notice, do you think it was coincidence or not that CM Punk and all the Elite members and FTR were the first three matches on the show? I wonder if, maybe Tony Khan was like, to avoid confrontation here, let's just knock them all out. But, that means that CM Punk, when he was coming back from his match with Samoa Joe, that he was passing the Golden Elite, Kenny Omega. So, he's got to have some, and Hangman Page. So he had to have seen these guys right back there at Gorilla. It's not like they got two different gorillas. There's just one gorilla. So they're coming back. They're going out. I guess they're just not acknowledging each other or anything like that. I don't know how you do this. It just seems so goddamn elementary school. But these guys must have been intermingling, considering their matches were right after one another. And I'm wondering if they got the hell out of Dodge or if they were leaving the arena or what. But the report was that Punk was sticking around. So that was kind of interesting. Let me scroll back up here a little bit and reset so we can knock out some supers and see what you guys have to say about this whole Jungle Boy and CM Punk unnecessary distraction that we got tonight. I think the more I think about it, the more it's going to piss me off. Kind of mad at both guys, to be honest. Weird situation. That deal. Rhea Ripley is Greg's muscle mommy. Oh, yeah. No, Elizabeth is my muscle mommy. She has got rock hard calves. She is strong as an ox. Sexy, I'll tell you. Let me see. Who's next? Spaz is back. Thank you, dude, for the 5K. So at All Out, Cole faces Punk for the real world title. Winner goes on to unify with MJF later in the night. Oh, okay. That could work. But again, you're doing a lot of stuff with a 4-day build. This is some Goldberg, Hogan, Georgia Dome shit here. I like all of that. It's just I would like a little bit more time on TV to put that together. And they're in a tough spot here with All Out in a week. But, Punk has got to have a big match on that show. It's Chicago, so he has to do something major. And defending that Real World Championship might be what they do. It might just be MJF and Punk one-on-one. That's actually what I would do. It's just MJF and Punk. They're the two with the belts right now, And Cole, you can revisit Cole and MJF because I don't think you have to have Cole and MJF face again right away at All Out. I think the whole point of the finish tonight was to extend the bromance between Cole and MJF a little bit longer before they inevitably crumble. So they would be crumbling really quick if you just did that all in a week. So I think it's just going to have to be MJF and Punk, and they might want to do that as quickly as All Out. And that might actually work booking-wise, because you can just do that match right away and you force it and get it done without having to create a whole entire program, 3-month thing between these two guys. They've already had their program when Punk came back a couple years ago and did great business. So, having one more match here and putting the belt on whoever you wanted, even if it is CM Punk with an Adam Cole interference or maybe a mistake. Could you imagine that? Because neither guy, they showed tonight, they are willing to bend the rules a little bit. And if MJF gets Punk in a compromising position and he calls Adam Cole in, let me hold him and you super kick him, and Cole kicks MJF instead and Punk pins him and wins the title, then it's, oh my God, my friend cost me the title. And how is that? Is MJF going to be able to forgive that? You know what I mean? Because tonight he made it seem like the belt wasn't as important to him as Adam Cole was. He even got pissed at the end and threw the belt down. Fine, it's that important to you. Here, take it. I don't care. I got lucky. Admitted that he got lucky even. So he cares for Adam Cole. So something like that could be interesting to see how MJF manages those emotions. But anything that major involving the three of them at All Out, I just think it's kind of quick. Might have to save that one for the next one. Shell Shock, appreciate the 5. What an incredible show. 81K people. Every match delivered. Easy A for me, on par with WrestleMania 39 Night 1. Boy, that was a night, wasn't it? WrestleMania 39 Night 1, how great that show ended, and we still had a full day left of wrestling the next day. and then got our nuts cut off by Solo Sikoa at the end of that. But man, yeah, it's I'm glad that people are giving it good reviews. I've seen nothing but good reviews all across social media. I really have. Michael Cuomo choking, whacking off nuts. What did I walk into here? I don't know. I'm just in a mood, I guess. Spectre, appreciate the 5 from you. Fantastic show. Only thing I would have changed. Cole should have won the title and gone heel. Oh, and I wouldn't have had that Phil guy on the show. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised with the outcome of the main event, but I didn't necessarily hate it because I have been enjoying the two of them going out back together and stuff. So hopefully we get to see a little more of that. I bet it's kayfabe. I wish all that was kayfabe. Trust me, I wish the whole backstage drama was, but I don't think it is. Chris Miner, 2 from you, dude. The show was good. Pick me up after this weekend. Oh, the show was a good. I was like, pick you up. Where are you? I'll pick you up. The show was a good pick me up after this weekend. I agree. That was the whole point of today, is trying to, just move on from, the tragedy that we've had to deal with over the past couple of days. By the way, if you guys don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, I'd appreciate it. Bring in Haku. There you go. Corey Mitchell's got a good idea. Just make Haku the booker. Or Brock, somebody like that. But I am all for appropriate punishment once we know what the truth is. The problem is fans don't give a shit what the truth is. They just go straight to punish the person that they've already chose to not like. But I kind of like to know the facts without just flying off of the rails. Hey, fucking and I'm like, well, let's just see what's going on first and then decide. I know it's a crazy concept to act like an adult, but I think that's what we should probably do in situations like this. I know it's crazy. TK just announced a new pay-per-view for October called Wrestle Dream, October 1st. That might be where you do another MJF Cole thing or involve CM Punk. So if there is a media scrum going on right now, which apparently there is, let me know how that's going, and let me know if they say anything about what went on between Punk and Jungle. They probably aren't going to say anything at all. They don't want to relive that shit. Well, we had a brawl out. Now we got brawl in. What is going on? There you go. What's up, Amato? Good to see you, my friend. What if Punk beats MJF and is the new leader of the kingdom? I'd be into that. I think Punk kind of needs a stable. But I think if Punk had a stable, it would be involve FTR. I still think Cole might wind up forming did I call him earlier, the Empire or whatever? Forming the kingdom with those guys. And that would be kind of cool. Like Cole, Taven, and Bennett against Punk and FTR. Could be some fun matches down the line. Could be. We will see. Up next on the main card, we had the AEW tag team titles on the line. FTR defending against the Young Bucks. And this was a match perfectly suited for Wembley. This is a match you needed to do. I'm glad they booked it for this because of how good these teams are. And I wasn't sure who to pick in this. I kind of forgot. I think I picked the Young Bucks actually in my predictions. So my predictions were shit here. But this was a really great tag team match. Solid tag team stuff from both classic Bucks, classic FTR. And I think I had my mind mostly on the finish and what kind of a finish they were going to do, because I think that if the Young Bucks would have won here, as I predicted them to, then I would have wondered, did they win and then was that the plan all along? Or did they win because of the legal troubles of Cash Wheeler? And the fact that that FTR not only won tonight with the Shatter Machine to Nick Jackson, I believe, but Cash is the one that got the pin. So that means that they are going with the original plan and letting the legal stuff work itself out, or maybe they were sending a message here. I don't know, but this tells me that Cash's legal problems aren't going to affect his status or his push in the company, as they retained here tonight. So I think that's good, but I was really, really curious how the finish was going to go and if that was going to play a role at all, and it doesn't look like it is. And for the Young Bucks to take the loss there clean, losing to FTR, a lot of great near fall spots and kickouts and, BTE triggers and BTE trigger misses and lots of stuff. And it was a very close match that could have gone either way, but at the end of the day, it was FTR adding to and maybe even cementing more of their legacy as the best tag team in wrestling. With the Usos no longer together, they really have kind of, solidified themselves, I think, with the victory here tonight as that team. After the match, though, they tried to do the handshake deal with the Bucks. I thought we would see the handshake. Although the Bucks, were kind of snotty in the sit-down interview on Dynamite the other night as well. So, we know the Bucks can be Bucks, but I still thought we might get a handshake here. The Bucks refused. They left frustrated, and FTR celebrated as the winners. And that's interesting too. These EVPs all just re-signed, doing the job here. So sometimes it feels like Tony Khan's got no authority, and sometimes it feels like people just do what they're told. So I don't know. I think, as far as I know, the relationship between the Young Bucks and FTR are fine. Personally, they know that they have an issue with their friend Punk, but they're trying to stay independent of it. And of course, these guys all are professional enough and okay with working together, and they were able to deliver a good match. So there was plenty of cooperation and all of that stuff. So it didn't look like, you got any real heat here between these teams, but they kind of made some at the end, with the Bucks refusing to do the handshake. So we will see now if that leads to anything else more with FTR, or if their issue is going to be done for the time being. Feels like it might be, but I don't know what the Bucks do from here after this. I almost feel like winning here would have been really important to their legacy as well. That's why I was having trouble predicting it on Thursday, but I predicted another one wrong. I can't remember how many. Let me just look at the card real quick and let's see how many matches I predicted right. One so far, two, nope, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I predicted 6 matches correctly. Yeah, I picked 6 matches correctly out of the 11. So that's not very good. But up next was the Stadium Stampede, which pretty much was anarchy in the stadium type of thing. It was much more like that, like an anarchy in the arena match, than a Stadium Stampede match. This, of course, was Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Santana, and Ortiz taking on Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, the Best Friends, and Penta, 5-on-5. And what made this Stadium Stampede different than the other ones is that there was like no comedy. This was all violence. Violence, violence, violence. Unreal. The craziest spot had to be the skewers. They're bringing out the skewers now. And Jon Moxley just did the skewers, I think, in Japan a few weeks ago. But they busted them out here. Penta has the skewers, and he takes out all, I guess maybe Moxley gets them first. He gains control of the skewers. Moxley's sitting down. He places a handful of the skewers. And if you've ever felt those long wooden skewers, they're not like toothpicks. They're pretty thick and they're pretty stiff, and they will stab you. They are needles. It's what you skewer fucking kebabs and shrimp and shit like that with. I mean, those things are strong. You buy them in the grocery store, and they are sharp and they are thick. And he took a handful of them, and he not only put them on Moxley's skull, but he was hammering them into his head to where they were all sticking out like spaghetti. And it was like kind of bending over, like they were so deep into his skin that it was just tearing his skin apart. And then they were just sticking out of the top of his head. It was a great visual, but I don't know, understand sometimes why millionaires who are set for life voluntarily stab their skulls with shit. It's crazy to me, but Moxley's gonna Moxley, and that's the way he is. He was bleeding hard, had something funky hanging from his eye. He was a complete mess. And like I said, it was all about the violence in this one. It was Eddie, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and Chuck Taylor. They were brawling all over in the arena, while Santana and Ortiz and Penta and Trent and Moxley and Orange Cassidy were battling in the ring. And Penta wound up getting taken out and escorted from the match, only to return as Penta Oscuro, which was pretty cool. And he showed up after Sue showed up in the van, because we have brawling over kind of by the entranceway there. And Sue, who we knew was at the show, she baked cookies for the entire AEW roster. She showed up in her van. And again, with the violence here, she just shows up to help out. I don't know what she was doing there. She just drives up and Moxley sees her. He reaches in the driver window, grabs her, and forces a kiss on her, which is just crazy. She's got the cookies, though. The cookies come out. The cookie sheets are used as weapons, and that's when Penta comes back. And then after the Sioux fiasco, we find ourselves back in the ring. Everybody's a bloody mess. Everybody's beaten up. Eddie Kingston's going crazy. And Orange Cassidy has got tape on his hands, and he starts dipping his hands in fucking broken glass. And he winds up hitting Claudio with a Superman punch and pinning him for the win, ending the stadium stampede in another match that I predicted incorrectly. I thought Blackpool Combat Club and Santana and Ortiz, who just returned, would pick up the W here, but it turned out to be the baby faces instead, and the orange punch to Claudio Bloodsport style was just fucking crazy. Wasn't expecting it to go in that violent direction, and it was a very violent direction, but I enjoyed it. I did. It's crazy. Sometimes I wonder why people do this to themselves, and I don't need crazy violence. I'm not really into the Nick Gage level of hardcore wrestling, but you give me a skewer spot, I'm going to mark out, as gnarly as it is. And this stuff was all pretty much in line with how AEW does things. They are not scared of getting violent. They are not afraid to get thumbtacks and sharp shit and glass and all sorts of stuff that can shorten your career out there. They like to do that. It's an element on their show. What sets them apart from WWE, because when we saw on Friday night the Terry Funk hardcore match that was nothing more than a tornado match with a table, this is what hardcore really was, especially a lot of the stuff that Jon Moxley was doing in the ring. By the way, it should be noted that earlier on, FTR had Bray Wyatt and Brody and Bray. I think it was Brody, Bray, and Jay armbands, which was really cool. We did see various tributes to both Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt here tonight. But one thing that I was disappointed about is that nobody wore the Funk trunks, the striped Terry Funk trunks. You know the ones I mean? The ugliest shit ones that he wore for so many years. I thought for sure somebody would have Terry Funk inspired gear. I didn't see any tonight, or at least I didn't see the gear that I was looking for. But the Stadium Stampede was fun. It was violent. It surprised me. No silliness, just all blood and guts. And I liked it. Crazy, but whatever. Let me read that super chat real quick from Spectra. Thank you for the 5, dude. Don't get me wrong. I like the main event. I wonder if they scrapped Cole's heel turn to send the crowd home happy after Bray's bet. No, they definitely did not do that. They would not have changed their top storyline for that, you know what I mean? Unless it was something specifically insensitive to what went on. Like they had to scrap the Vince McMahon death angle after Benoit passed away. But a matter of just sending the crowd home happy, I don't think it was about that. I mean, it could have been, but Ray's death, I don't think affected what they did here tonight in the main event at all. Plus, we still got a chance to get the hug and all of that. So 2 minutes. Thank you. I was wondering the time on that. Thank you, Isaac. 2 minutes before Moxley started to bleed. I didn't see the spot that he got busted open with initially. I just saw about 2 minutes in the match, he had already had blood on his face. So I didn't even see how it happened. But it was crazy. It was nuts. And I liked it. After that, we had the AEW Women's Championship on the line in the 4-way. Hikaru Shida defending against Toni Storm, Britt Baker, and Saraya. Saraya comes out with her entire family as We Will Rock You by Queen plays her to the ring. In Wembley Stadium, an arena, the old one anyway, that Queen had a couple of concerts in, a couple of pretty epic ones too. And the fact that that song was playing in that building was awesome. That's cool that Tony Khan actually paid for the rights to that. That was probably pretty expensive. She had her whole family with her, looked like her mom and dad and her brothers and all that. They came to the ring with her. I mean, the minute I heard Queen playing and I saw the family, I'm like, this isn't WWE. This isn't Tony. This isn't Vince McMahon. This is Tony Khan. WWE will give special entrances and bring people out in their hometown to lose. They did that. They used to do that shit all the time. Tony Khan is different, and you just know him better than that. And so, even though, like I said earlier, I'm happy for Saraya, it was pretty obvious right from the moment that they booked this. I'm like, are you really going to even put Saraya in this match if she's not going to win it? Come on. So once she came out with the special entrance, that pretty much sealed it for me. All the women looked great. Toni Storm came out there looking fantastic. So did Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida, of course, as your champion, was here to defend. The match in the ring was nothing more, I think, than okay. We had an incident in the match where Saraya gets hit in her neck by Toni Storm because they were trying to, play up the friendship there. But of course, the title's on the line. What are these women going to do if it, push comes to shove? And at first they were trying to get along, but eventually, that broke down. And on the outside of the ring, Saraya's mom is at ringside, and she grabs, I think, Britt Baker and holds her for Toni Storm to dive off the apron and hit her. Britt Baker moves out of the way. Or maybe she wasn't on the apron. Maybe she just came in with a forearm or something. But Britt moves, or Shida. I don't remember who her mom was holding. But they move, and Toni Storm hits Saraya's mom, and she takes a hell of a bump into the chairs. That's pretty funny. That pisses off Saraya. So they have, a few words in the ring, and that's where it starts to break down. Saraya gets her, neck kind of tweaked, and she's sitting in the corner, and that's when Ruby Soho runs to the ring, and she gets in the ring and tries to stop Toni from continuing the attack on Saraya, and she kept saying, her neck. It didn't go over well. It didn't look good. It wasn't executed well. Fans didn't even respond or react to it whatsoever. Ruby, getting nothing from Toni Storm, gets frustrated and just leaves, kind of pissed off. And that was pretty much the end of the Outcasts there, because Saraya winds up getting a can of spray paint and spray painting Toni Storm right in the face, hitting her DDT finisher thing and getting the pin and winning the AEW championship. And I think what is only her fourth match this year. So that's a decision. But like I said, it's kind of an obvious one. It just feels like Tony Khan wanted to give this moment to Saraya. I felt like it was manufactured. I felt a lot of this emotion was manufactured. I'm sure it was very special for her. And there's a big part of me that's very, very happy for her. But, sometimes I just like it when moments like this feel a little bit more natural than this one did. Because it just felt like you knew what they were out there to do. And now she's the champion. And hopefully, it's not too terribly long of a run because, she doesn't wrestle a lot, and the women's division already has got some issues. But, she still is a star. She can still carry herself well on the mic. She might turn out to be one of the best AEW women's champions we've had. Maybe it's a breath of fresh air they need or something like that. If she gets an edge to her and she's not trying to do the tearful, babyface appreciative thing, maybe if she turns heel and she becomes an asshole, it'll work better. But since we saw Mercedes Moné in the crowd tonight, I'm really hoping we get a match between those two, because I think that would be good for the both of them in terms of some closure, maybe lightening the burden of any guilt Mercedes might be dealing with over the past couple of years for how Saraya had to leave the business for a while. And if they were able to do that match, I think it would kind of be pretty special. So I don't necessarily hate the fact that Saraya won the title. I just think the booking of it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And if the whole plan was to put the belt on Saraya here in Wembley, I just would have put her one-on-one with Toni Storm. I don't know why they had to do all this other stuff. I would have never taken the belt off of Toni Storm to begin with. And I thought maybe the whole reason why Shida won the title is so Saraya and Toni could continue being together after this. That way, Saraya can just pin Britt or pin Shida to win the title. And then that keeps the Saraya and Toni alliance intact. But since they pretty much split here anyway, with Saraya blinding her with the spray paint, then why didn't you just do it one-on-one without making Shida the middleman in all of this and winning the championship for no reason? It just was weird and just not great. So Saraya won. Super emotional celebration with the family. She brought them all in the ring. The pyro was going off. She got her moment. Saraya deserves it. Girl's been through a lot. We might not love how this was presented or booked, and we might see some problems, but I'm trying to also think about Saraya, after, what happened to her a few years back with the video leaks and what that did to her reputation, and then the stuff that she was going through with Alberto Del Rio, and she's been through a tumultuous life. She's trying to clean things up. She's gotten herself back on track. And she also, on top of everything else going on, had all of her health problems, her neck problems, having to retire from the ring. She's had a crazy life so far. So this is something that she definitely deserves, but I just question the execution of it is all. Trying to be as polite and fair about this whole thing as possible. But at the end of the day, Saraya wins. She's the new champion. Hopefully that leads to some interesting matches, because Toni Storm's going to be pissed and she'll have something to say about that. Hopefully on TV. Hopefully Tony Khan follows through with this right away. Don't keep Saraya off TV for 3 weeks now. Put her right there on Dynamite right away, having her cut a victory promo and move her on to something to do at All Out. And who knows, maybe she even drops the title at All Out. Maybe they wanted to give Saraya more this moment and not necessarily a long run. And maybe they take the title off of her right away at All Out, with Toni Storm pulling some shady stuff on her and getting the win this time. We'll see. We don't know. She might be a transitional champion. But then again, if she was, Ben, and like I said a minute ago, so was Hikaru Shida. They just made her the champion for no reason. So if Saraya then drops this thing in a week, then you're starting to hot potato it, and that might be a little bit much. Okay, thank you for that information, Ryan. By the way, if you guys have any other juicy morsels from the scrum, please let me know. Apparently, Tony Khan announced that Collision will air on Friday before Full Gear, so there will be SmackDown versus Collision. And I plan on being at Full Gear because it's in LA, so I will be there, and they're going to run Collision head-to-head with Smacky. That'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see what kind of number Collision pulls. First of all, they're not going to beat SmackDown. They're not going to come anywhere near beating SmackDown, but they might put a dent in what they normally get. SmackDown's hovering around that 2 million? They might do a 1.7, maybe even a 1.6. And Collision does probably 500K, something like that. So I think they'll annihilate Collision, but I do think WWE probably isn't thrilled about having another wrestling show going head-to-head with their beloved Fox SmackDown. So that's going to be an interesting number to read the next day. After the women's championship match, we had the coffin match. This was super fun. One of my favorite matches on the show. Not sure if it was my favorite, but might have been my second favorite. And this was Christian and Swerve Strickland taking on Darby Allin and Sting. Swerve had a really awesome entrance. I didn't know who that was that wrapped him to the ring, but it was really presented well. It looked great. Also, I need to be educated on that jacket. What's the significance of that? Belongs to somebody or something. I didn't catch that either. And that entrance was really great. Christian, of course, comes out with the championship belt around his waist. What a prick. And it's going to be Swerve and Christian on one team against Darby and Sting. We get a little video intro from Darby and Sting. Sting is Joker Sting, which was great. So we get them on video first. And then they come to the ring to Seek and Destroy by Metallica, which was Sting's WCW theme. So again, first Queen, now Metallica. That's insane. And that was very nostalgic to hear that theme for the first time. David Bixenspan on Twitter pointed out, I didn't know this, that apparently Tony Khan could have used the Woodstock 99 recording of this song because it's much cheaper and it's the version that WCW used. But Tony Khan paid for the rights for the studio release, which was probably way more expensive. So I found that to be an interesting tidbit there. But Sting coming out to that song was really fucking awesome. Now, this match had everything. Now, what I like about AEW's coffin matches is that they really are different than WWE's casket matches. It goes beyond the name. I've commended AEW for calling them coffin matches instead of casket matches. But what I also like about this is that they're using the casket differently. You know, in WWE, it was always like a big fucking box or something. This is a regular ass casket, like the ones they used to do in the early days of the caskets and stuff. Now it's just kind of like bigger ones. but it's a real casket, and they're pulling it off the roller. They're leaning it up against the ring. They're putting it on the floor. They're putting it in the ring. They're using the casket like a ladder in a ladder match. And that's something WWE does not do. I've never seen them use the actual casket, other than maybe taking a bump or two on it or over it or something like that. They're never bringing that shit in the ring, to the best of my knowledge. So that's different. The fact that they treat it differently. Early on in the match, Darby Allin gets his hands tied behind his back, but he's still able to execute a springboard moonsault and one of his torpedo dives, both of them with zero use of his hands, which is just crazy risky, but not as risky as he would do in a second. We had a fun Sting dive onto Swerve through the table, but the table doesn't break, and the fans call for it again. Sting climbs back up to the apron, jumps down with an elbow, and breaks it this time. That was fun. Christian is sitting in the chair on the outside of the ring, and Darby missile drop kicks him from the ropes and knocks him backwards. That was a crazy spot. Luchasaurus wound up showing up to save Christian from getting locked in the coffin, and Nick Wayne tried to come run Luchasaurus off, but he got choke slammed on a skateboard. That looked like it hurt like hell. And the craziest spot of the night comes from our friend Darby Allin. I don't know, man. I hope Jeff Hardy gets a chance to pull this kid aside, maybe have some conversations with him about lengthening your career as much as you can and protecting your body, because it doesn't seem like Darby Allin gives a shit. He climbs to the top rope. The coffin is off its rollers now. It's flat on the ground. I think Swerve Strickland is laying on the coffin. Darby climbs all the way to the top rope and goes for the coffin drop. Swerve moves, might have been Christian, I can't remember who moved, and he just takes a flat back bump on the top of the coffin from 10 feet up? More? 11 feet? 12 feet? When he dives from the top rope all the way down? That's crazy. He hit the top of that thing. It barely gave it all. He dented it. But Darby Allin is not like he's not like Mick Foley, where he's got a lot of meat on him, to cushion himself. This kid is skin and bone and white makeup, and that is it. And he's going back first, shoulder blades first, right into this thing. I don't understand how you survive that. I mean, he almost splat. I mean, if you land wrong there, you could conceivably die on a bump like that. And he just thump, I'm like, doesn't that hurt like shit? I mean, am I the only one that thinks that might have kind of hurt a little bit? And I was watching his eyes, and his eyes were just kind of glazed over him. He's just sucking it up. The dude's a boss. It was just a crazy, crazy spot, the way he landed like that. Oh my God. Like I said, later, they put the coffin in the ring. Sting is now in the coffin. Swerve tries to kick the door closed, but Sting has got the bat, and the bat is sticking out of the side, so he can't get the lid completely closed. And the bat saves the day. Sting is able to recover, and he hits a scorpion death drop to Swerve on top of the coffin, and then puts, then they try to put Swerve after the scorpion death drop on top of the coffin. They get Swerve in the coffin. He's trying to fight his way out of it, and then they kind of close the lid on him, so he's kind of sandwiched in there. And then Darby comes off with another coffin drop on the lid of the coffin that squishes Swerve. They're able to shove him completely in there, close the lid, and Sting and Darby Allin get the win in a really, really fun match. Sting was incredible. This guy, his age, he's more exciting to watch in the ring than Jericho. Maybe Jericho actually had a pretty good showing against Ospreay, but just incredible. I'm so happy that Sting got this moment. I'm glad the fans got to see this, and I'm glad, that he was able to have a match of this magnitude at this stage of his life and career. Somebody posted a video on Twitter of his WrestleMania 31 entrance, and Michael Cole being fed the line by Vince McMahon. "This is what it's like, Sting. Over 70,000 people here to watch you. This is what it's like." What a dick. And here Sting is wrestling in front of 10,000 more people than that. Because Vince was butthurt that Sting never wanted to sign with him. This is what it's like to be with a real company. That type of shit. So the fact that Sting got to have this was pretty awesome. Him and Darby have been super over. And whenever whenever Sting decides that that's it, I'm done, I'm glad that he was able to have this match, because what a way to go out. So now whenever he decides to hang it up, I'm completely content. As a Sting fan, as a wrestling fan, I'm content. I'm satisfied. I've had my fill. Sting doesn't owe me as a fan anything else. He doesn't owe me another match. He doesn't owe me another moment, another crazy bump, another crazy dive, another crazy promo. He doesn't owe me or any of us any of that. But if he wants to give it to us, I'll accept it, because Sting is the man. Sting is the man. Up next, it was Chris Jericho one-on-one with Will Ospreay. Holy shit, did I love this contract signing the other night. I thought it was great. It sold me on the match. At first, I was like, why? Now I'm like, oh. And I am really glad that I changed my tune on this, because it was really good. Jericho promised to sing Judas live for the audience. He did that. They started up above the stage there, playing Judas. And then Jericho sang as he came to the ring. And I was wondering how that was going to work. I knew he was probably going to sing while he made his entrance, but does he have enough wind in him to get that out? Is he going to be in tune and all of that? And he pretty much was. It sounded fine. And it was better than some live performances. I've mentioned this the other night. I don't really like it when they do a live performance of a wrestler's theme, because I kind of like the wrestler's studio theme better in most cases. Remember how terrible DX's theme sounded at WrestleMania 14? That was shit. This was way better. And Fozzy jammed out. They jammed out hard. I liked it. And the match with Ospreay. Ospreay's a great entrance. I love his whole look now, the way he's evolved and grown and matured into, LeBron, where before he was, kind of younger, coming up and was still dazzling us. But now he feels like a main eventer, where maybe 5 years ago he did not. But now he does. He's got that aura to him. He's got that presence to him. His contract is up next year. Wherever he lands, it's going to be a treat for us. I can see Triple H pushing him. Oh, maybe by then WWE and the sale transition with Endeavor has gone through. They're able to, be a little bit more flexible with the type of money they're offering, and maybe they can grab him. But if not, if he goes to AEW, that would be insanely awesome as well, because I don't know how you don't make him world champion as soon as he fucking gets there. So we will see. But we talked about Jericho in his age, his physical ability at this stage of his life and career, and how that if anybody can pull one more phenomenal match out of Chris Jericho, Will Ospreay is probably the best guy in the world to really do that right now. And he did it. But it wasn't all Ospreay. Did Ospreay carry the match a lot? Sure, but Jericho deserves credit. He really does. He hung, and it's got to be hard when you're somebody of Jericho's age in there with a guy that most believe is the best in the world right now in the ring physically. Not too many people are above what Will Ospreay can do. I don't think anybody is. So that's an unbelievable amount of pressure for him too. Not only performing a live concert right before his match, but then getting in there and having to hang with this beast. And, for the most part, he did, all things considered. It was up there with my level of enjoyment of what Jericho did with Omega and Naito at Wrestle Kingdom in those back-to-back years or whatever. I really liked that. And I thought those matches were great, and Jericho being able to do different things and having matches like that in a time in his life that I also thought was well beyond his best years was really impressive to me. And this match with Ospreay felt a lot like that. You knew Jericho wasn't going to get the win. This had to be Ospreay all day, but Jericho putting up that fight, getting some near falls, the way Ospreay was selling the Judas effect, that type of thing. It was great. The match was fun. It didn't look clunky. Jericho didn't look out of his league. He didn't look too slow or anything like that. It actually was good. It flowed well. And of course, Ospreay beating him clean as a whistle in the end is the only way that match should have gone. And I loved every minute of it. And I guess we're going to get now Will Ospreay and hopefully Kenny Omega in that third match, probably at Wrestle Kingdom. I would have liked to see it here in Wembley. They gave us Jericho instead. I had my doubts. I was skeptical, and I'm proud to say that both men proved me wrong, especially Jericho did. So excellent job there. Loved that match. And then after that, we had our boy Nigel McGuinness get in the ring to announce to the audience what the paid attendance was for this show. And AEW is claiming this is a new record of paid fans of 81,035. We've been tracking the WrestleTickets Twitter page, tracking the sales for weeks now, seeing it approach the high 70s, the 80,000s. They broke 80,000. There was still a pretty good chunk of seats above in the upper level that weren't sold. You could visibly see those empty tonight up there. So they weren't at capacity. Capacity, I think, was 84 or 85,000. So they were about 4,000 or 5,000 fans short of filling this place. You know, and when you look at the amount of empty seats, is it 5,000 empty seats? Probably in that neighborhood, yeah. Will we ever know what the real amount is? I never thought it would really matter. I never thought these things would really matter in life. We know WWE embellishes their attendance every time they announce it, but none of us really ever care about fact checking that because we don't care. It's WWE. They're just fucking waving their pricks around. Big deal. Nobody ever gets mad, you know, but all of a sudden here, AEW is doing the same thing. They're selling records amount of tickets, and it's been, you know, it's not like they're just making up these numbers. These are all stats that you can find in a number of places, you know, of the tickets sold. We've all been seeing it. And then they announce the number, and then fans are like, oh, I don't know. And it might not be. I'm like, where were all these tweets when WWE announced their bullshit number? They tried to tell you there was 101,000 people in Texas, and there was 80. There was 20,000 less people than they claimed. You know, if there is any embellishment by AEW here, it's pretty minor. This number that they reported, whether it's exactly accurate or not, is going to be far more accurate than any number WWE has ever thrown at us, ever. They are going to be closer to the truth than WWE ever was. And the fact that fans think it's the other way around is bizarre to me. Maybe this is the most attended wrestling show in history. Maybe it's not. Either way, a shitload of people came to this show, and more people came to this show than have been to 99.999999999% of wrestling shows in history. If AEW didn't set the record here, then all it means is they came close to breaking it and didn't break it. They're the number 2. Either way, they have done something remarkable. Either way, this amount of people is something to be extremely proud of. Even the people in AEW who weren't booked for the show, you guys are just as much a part of this as anyone else. You had a hand in this too. It's not just the people that had matches tonight. Everybody who's there, from production people, you know, because there's a whole production team that has to present this to the audience and make it look good and make it look good enough to go and watch, and ring crew guys and security and you know, everybody involved. The entire promotion should be proud. You should be walking around with your heads held high today because this was an amazing feat, regardless of what the attendance is. So if it makes the haters feel better to nitpick the fuck out of this thing until your asshole falls out, then go right ahead if that's what you need. If that's what you need in your life, in your pathetic fucking life, is to dig so deep and try to figure out exactly what you can do to downplay this number as much as possible, then I guess you do you. But as a wrestling fan, I'm very appreciative of being able to witness something like this. You know, I just think if you're a 20-year-old fan, you're spoiled or something. I don't think you're ever going to truly understand the magnitude of having a show this big that's not WWE, regardless of what it is. You know, no matter what kind of what ifs or yeah buts you want to throw out there, it's not going to change the fact that this was a remarkable accomplishment. And it's something that everybody who works in AEW, from the top of the roster to the dude that cleans the shitters on Tony Khan's plane, every one of them needs to be proud of what they accomplished. I know I would be. I say the same shit when WWE has WrestleManias. I say, go knock them dead, boys and girls. You've earned this. There's going to be 60, 70, 80,000 people in that building all watching you work. Good luck. You've earned it. Have fun. Because I'm a wrestling fan. I said the same thing to the AEW audience tonight, or the AEW roster and staff tonight. Go out there and kick ass. Because I've purchased every single AEW pay-per-view that they've ever had. I've never once walked away from one of those experiences thinking that I waste my money. Not once. So as a wrestling fan, I am proud of this number. I am proud that wrestling, that professional wrestling can draw this type of audience. And not just one professional wrestling company that's trying to corner the market on everything. Everybody knows WWE. WWE is worldwide. But the fact that the art, the business of professional wrestling can draw this amount without a big, obnoxious fucking WWE logo slapped right in the middle is incredible. It's great for wrestling. We all like wrestling, right? We all like to watch it. This improves the business. This grows the business. This creates more jobs and opportunities for people who want to get into this line of work. You see how it works? It's not hard to be happy. It's not hard to be proud. It's not hard to be optimistic or positive thinking towards the wrestling business when you see this type of stuff, to focus on the negative, and to focus on the tribal aspects, and actually being so morally empty inside that seeing a big crowd pisses you off. That's mind-blowing to me that people have that mentality. I think this is a great day for wrestling. And like I said in my predictions, and I've said a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, I don't personally think that AEW can top this from an attendance level. I think maybe they can produce a better card somewhere down the line. But in terms of how many people they pack into one building at once to watch them, I don't feel like this can be beat. There was more tickets to be sold. They could have put more people in Wembley. But if they come back a year later, are they going to be able to really top this? And actually fill it this time? My gut tells me no. My gut tells me this is AEW's ceiling for attendance. It will never be bigger than this. That's my prediction. I would love to be wrong. It's just my prediction. So you should be proud of this, and it should be acknowledged as an incredible accomplishment. And 4 years deep, less than that. Dynamite didn't even debut until October of 2019. We're not even at the 4-year mark of Dynamite yet. And they did this type of business. Whew. Incredible. We expect these numbers from WWE because they're WWE. So when they announce their numbers for WrestleMania 40, and you use that as a way, as a burn on AEW, look, they did more than you. Well, of course they did. They're WWE. Of course. If you have to point this out, I'm not sure what kind of level of education you have if you feel it necessary to point out the obvious like that. We expect that from WWE. They're a fucking juggernaut. They're doing great business right now too. Excellent business. And WrestleManias have been a great success in the past couple of years. This next one at WrestleMania 40 is probably going to be a very big show, very memorable show, and will probably be a pretty emotional show with Bray Wyatt likely going into the Hall of Fame next year. And plus, it's WrestleMania 40. That might finally signal the end of Roman Reigns Roman Reigns run. The business has got a lot going for it right now. In WWE, you expect them to do these type of numbers. If they don't, then you got to be worried. So it's just par for the course for WWE. This is what they're used to now. So the fact that anybody can come around and pull numbers comparable to that, I think is a W no matter which way you look at it. AEW is not going to ever really defeat WWE in the ratings. But if they can pull 50%, 60%, 70% of what WWE does, that's a W. That's why they're not going anywhere. They're not going to go out of business. Warner Brothers Discovery isn't going to dump them. They're going to extend their contracts and give them more money and give them more TV time and promote them and advertise them. It's the opposite of what you want it to be. They're not going away. You're going to see more of them. And tonight was a way for them to solidify that we are here. This was their WrestleMania in my eyes, because of the special entrances and, a lot of the added pageantry to it and everything. This was their night to shine on this level. And I think they really did. So props to everybody involved there. And no matter how many, even if it was 78,000, even if they embellished this by 3,000, 4,000, it's still not as much of an embellishment as any WWE attendance. And it's still a pretty goddamn impressive number. So I think even though it might not be exactly accurate, it's probably not far off from the actual number, is my belief. We only had 2 matches left. After that, it was House of Black defending their trios championships against the Acclaimed and badass Billy Gunn. House of Black came out all in white. They looked great. Tribute to Bray Wyatt with the lantern. Loved that. And Acclaim came out, of course, with badass Billy Gunn, as he was during this match. Funny spot in the ring. He's taking it to one of the House of Black members. Julia Hart gets in the ring and gets in Billy Gunn's face, and he tells her to suck his dick. Julia Hart, little Julia Hart, who's young enough to be his granddaughter. Couldn't believe he said that to her, Billy Gunn. First, Moxley forces a kiss on Sue, and now Billy Gunn's sexually propositioning women a third of his age. What's going on here? But it was a fun match. You know, I kind of wish this would have happened earlier to where we could have maximized the pop. I would have opened with this, and that's what I said in the predictions. I would have probably opened with this one. This was coming after, you know, FTR and the Bucks, and I'm not sure about the placement of this. And we had a feeling that the Acclaimed would win and they would give Billy his moment here and everything. I just feel like it could have been maximized better. It's not like the fans were dead for this, because after the Acclaimed won, by the way, kind of like all three pinned Brody King for the win. After they won, the House of Black actually gave them the championships, presented them the championships, and then they had the big scissor me party right there in the middle that the fans did mark out for. And it was a great moment for Billy Gunn. I'm happy for him. He's a champion again at this stage of his life. Is pretty incredible as well. But I might have just moved that match maybe a little earlier on the card. Do you think? I just feel like that might have been a better spot for it. It's my opinion anyway. And that left us with the main event. So much going on here in this main event. MJF defending his AEW championship against Adam Cole. Earlier on in the 0 hour, the two of these guys defeated Aussie Open to win the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. So they each have a belt now, and then MJF is, of course, is world champion. Adam Cole comes out first, and then MJF gets the big special entrance. He's carried on the throne. He's got that mask thing on. He's got his belt. It looked awesome. The whole entire presentation of the entrances felt like a big match, and it had the big match feel. And I remember kind of being proud of those guys too. I'm like, you know, Adam Cole and MJF aren't the biggest guys, you know, and the fact that, you know, one guy is 5'1" and the other's 5'1", you know, and they're both, you know, 215 pounds after a double cheeseburger. And the fact that they are in the middle of this ring in the main event of a stadium show this large is awesome. And it's just great. You know, it doesn't always have to be Roman and Brock. It can be this stuff too. And I was excited for the match because we already know these guys work well together. The Broadway they had, you know, a couple months ago was really good. So now it's time for the match, and now we have to see what the dynamic is going to be like. Now we're going to have to see, you know, who's willing to bend the rules, you know, and who's willing to put the friendship aside more than the other. And you weren't really sure at first. They both put the shirt on at first to show solidarity and the fact that they're going to play by the rules. We even got a sportsmanship chant, sportsmanship. And then the two of them shake hands. And as soon as they shake hands, MJF pokes Adam Cole right in the eye. I marked out for that. And then he smiled right to the hard camera with that prickish smile that only MJF has. I loved that. Earlier on in the 0 hour, they did the spot where Cole wants MJF to do the dive or the plancha or whatever. Not a plancha, but suicide dive. Through the ropes, and doesn't want to do it. And he stopped because he doesn't want to get injured. And so now he's in the position again where Cole is on the outside of the ring and he's looking around. He goes, should I do it? Should I do it? And he finally does the dive, hits it, lands it, and then almost has this like surprised look on his face that it worked. I loved that too. It's the little things. He's like, holy shit, that was pretty fucking awesome. Maybe I've just added a move to my my arsenal here. One of the early spots that made me cringe was they get the steps out and they take the steps apart, and Adam Cole basically gives like a snap suplex, brainbuster-ish type of suplex to MJF on these steel steps, but he does so kind of near the edge to where MJF comes right down like on the edge of the stairs. And it made me tweet out, oh my God, all in caps, because it just looked like a really sick bump. And MJF just took it and he was motionless, face first on the floor. Obviously, he was okay because the referee was in the ring counting. So we knew he was all right. But that was one of the sickest bumps, I think, of the night that I saw was that one. I'm like, God damn, this just got to be. I just hope he doesn't have any effects. I hope we don't hear about any injuries coming out of this match, because that bump specifically really made me shriek, kind of. But he was able to get up, but barely. He's laying there. I thought what they were going to do was Adam Cole stopping the count because he's in the ring with the referee. I think it's Bryce. He's counting 10. MJF is not moving. He gets up to 9, and MJF still has not moved a muscle. I was expecting Adam Cole to come in and break up the count, but instead MJF just popped right up, slid under the ring in the nick of time, and beats the 10 count. But he did have a pretty sick laceration on his shoulder, which I think came from that bump, got cut up pretty good there. And that was just a really, really scary bump to take, I think. Later on, they're on the other side of the ring where the announce table is. And MJF starts clearing it, just like in WWE, pulls off the plate thing, starts moving the shit out of the way. And he's going to tombstone pile drive Adam Cole on the table. But MJF can't do it. He chooses not to. He just cannot tombstone his friend on the table. He elects not to do it. Cole turns the tables on him, puts him in tombstone pile driver position on the table, and doesn't hesitate at all and drops MJF right on the table. They made it known that there was an extra support in the table, so it didn't give. Adam Cole kind of hurt his knee on that spot. And then we find ourselves back in the ring, and they do a double pin spot where both guys' shoulders are down. Referee counts 1, 2, 3. And the fans are like, what the fuck? But you knew, I didn't believe this for a second. There was still 18 minutes left before the top of the hour, and you figured this was definitely going to go a bit longer here, so they're going to do some sort of a restart. And once the referee told Justin Roberts to inform the crowd that it's going to be a draw, you kind of saw where they were going, because when they had the 30-minute Broadway, Adam Cole wanted 5 more minutes, and MJF pussed out. So this time, Justin Roberts says the result of this match is a draw. Cole grabs the microphone. Oh, hell no, we're not doing that. He kneels down, looks right at Max, who's in the corner. He goes, Max, 5 more minutes. And Max says no. He says no to the 5 minutes. And he goes, if we're going to do this, we're gonna do it until we have a fucking winner right here in Wembley or something like that. Crowd pops. So he's just willing to restart the match until there is a winner. Bell rings, and we've got a match restart here. That was great. Love that stuff. Then we get a ref bump. So the referee goes down. MJF does a thing where he's got the chair, and him and Cole are actually kind of like playing catch with the chair. Cole gets knocked down. The referee's starting to come to. So MJF just kind of opens up the chair and sticks it on his head. And then he lays down, just pulling the Eddie, laying there for the referee to see the belt on his head, and kind of, threatens to disqualify Adam Cole. But that's when, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. That's when they do the great spot where Adam Cole is going to hit MJF with the Panama Sunrise. He moves or something, and Adam Cole hits the referee with the Panama Sunrise instead. That was hilarious. So he goes down again, poor referee. So this time MJF has got an opportunity to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring again, and he doesn't want to do it. He's got it in his hand, and that's when Roderick Strong, we knew he would play a role. So I'm like, okay, here we go. Roddy gets in the ring. He comes from behind MJF, low blows MJF. He goes down. Cole gets on the rope, then hits MJF with the Panama Sunrise, lowers his knee, boom, hits him with the boom, covers him, no referee. So I thought that what I was witnessing right there was Adam Cole turning heel. Roddy showing up, nutshotting Cole, Adam Cole taking advantage, embracing and hugging with Roddy and revealing it was all a ruse. I thought that was all the beginning of it, but it looks like Adam Cole really didn't want Roddy to be there. He was just taking advantage of what he did, because that's what you got to do in a championship situation. So after the boom, he's covering Max. There's no referee. And finally he starts coming to, and he's just crawling over like a fucking slug to make the 3 count. And then he goes, 1, Mississippi. 2, miss. I mean, it's like a minute goes by. I had a birthday waiting for him to make this fucking 3 count. And then finally on the 3rd count, Max kicks out and survives there. That's when Adam Cole takes off the shirt. He grabs the belt. And this is what I thought we were going to see. I thought this was the heel turn. He's got the championship now. The referee is still kind of incapacitated. He's taking the shirt off. Roddy is out there. He's got the belt. He's going to nail MJF. And then he has second thoughts. and he wants to do it, and he looks conflicted, and I didn't think he was going to be conflicted at all. I thought he was going to, because earlier on in the match, we saw him tombstone pile drive MJF when MJF wouldn't. We saw him take advantage of Roderick's low blow. So Cole did not seem to be minding playing by the rules here at all, and then all of a sudden have these like second thoughts, and he decides not to do it, throws the belt down. This pisses off Roderick Strong, and he leaves, and then Adam Cole gets caught in a small package by MJF and gets pinned and loses the match. That surprised me. I was happy and sad. Happy that MJF retained because I thought it was a great main event. They did a great job in the match, and they told a good story. And it means that likely, since there was no definitive heel turn here, these two guys are going to be able to continue their relationship on screen, which has been nothing but entertaining since they've started. So that's a positive. A negative is that I really would have loved to see Adam Cole win the championship here. I really would have loved to see him screw over and swerve and turn heel on MJF and break MJF's heart, showing that vulnerable side of MJF. Because even, in the match, MJF too, he was way more conflicted, it felt like, than Adam Cole. Cole finally had a heart at the end when he had the belt. But before that, both guys were, kind of laying it in there, but just Cole more so than MJF. So I would have loved it if they did some sort of big swerve there, and that could have taken us into the fall with a whole new set of circumstances to build TV off of. I thought that would have been great. But instead, they do the win this way, and it's Adam Cole's own, his own hesitation there that wound up costing him. And he was visibly frustrated after the match. He's sitting in the corner. He's pissed off. And then after the match, we kind of get a little post-match angle here. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Royal Rumble in 2023 after the title match, all that extracurricular stuff that went on. So here it's the same thing. And Adam Cole is visibly upset. He's frustrated. MJF approaches him and tries to tell him that, hey, it could have gone either way. You put up a good fight. I got lucky. I still love you. He's professing his love to Cole, and he just shoves him away. I think he brings the title belt to him. That's what it is. He goes and gets the Ring of Honor tag team titles, and he goes, we're still the champions, and Cole throws the championships out, and that really pisses off MJF, and it was really good display of emotion here by MJF. Most wrestlers are not good actors, but MJF was very good here when he got really pissed the way Cole kind of rejected him there. And he goes, God damn it, you mean everything to me if it's this important, if that is all you care about. If you care about this belt more than me. By the way, no microphone here. The camera microphone was catching all this. So we're hearing it on TV. And he goes, if you care about this more than me, then you can have it. And he just throws the championship right at Adam Cole. And that kind of snaps Cole out of it. Roddy shows back up, I think, at one point as well, and tells Cole to hit MJF with the belt, but Cole won't do it. And he comes to his senses, and we get a nice hug and embrace between MJF and Adam Cole to close the show. And the Brochacho alliance remains intact, at least for right now. They hugged it out. They had a great match they can both be proud of. MJF came out on top. The story is not over here. They are still Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. They still have had moments of bad feelings between the two that could boil over into some sort of a confrontation. You got Roderick Strong floating around there as a satellite in this whole thing, making things weird. So there's still plenty to go here. So I'm not going to criticize the outcome here, even though I predicted it wrong. I'm not upset with the way it finished, because I do think it was a great way to end the show. They did a remarkable job of telling the story here, and that's what you have to do. Part of the reason why WWE's been crushing it in the ratings is because of the strength of what that bloodline story was able to do. And a lot of that stuff kind of just happened organically. MJF and Adam Cole have a story that's kind of like that, to where, fans are really kind of invested on what's going on between these two, and they're appreciating the work of both. So I can understand why they kept it going here. So I'm not going to criticize the outcome. I think I wanted something a little bit bigger, because maybe one criticism that's fair of this show is that we didn't get that one big holy shit moment, a big return or a big swerve or a big title change or a match outcome we weren't expecting. You know, we didn't get Edge popping out of the coffin like I thought. We didn't get, the Undertaker's streak ending. I was hoping to have some sort of a moment like that we would be talking about in this review that would really stand out as one of the biggest moments on the show. And we didn't really get that. And in a lot of ways, I'm not one to complain about that either. I was of the opinion, and I said so in several episodes, that I think the wrestlers, the current stars, should be the stars. I don't want to see Goldberg come out. You know, he didn't bring 80,000 people there. The roster did. The matches and the spots and the time should be given to the men and women that got you to this point to begin with. They did not build this show on the backs of legends. They built it on the stars that they have. So letting them be the stars was the right way to go. Aside from, here's a critique. These special entrances, I feel like that's where they went. That's where they set it apart as a bigger show, was the special entrances, the music, because otherwise, the way this match was booked, just the matches, this is a show that you could have had in a normal arena and done it the same way. Nothing was, aside from maybe Saraya, who won, in her home country. But aside from that, largely how they booked this is probably how they would have booked it, regardless of what arena they were in. So they stepped up their game in terms of production, pyro, special entrances, the pageantry type of stuff, but they didn't do anything in the booking that was going to give you a big, wow, holy shit, I can't believe that happened moment. And I was really hoping we were going to get that. Like I said, I didn't want Goldberg coming out there, but Edge would have been kind of cool. Or somebody like that. We did get Mercedes, but not in a run-in. She was just in the crowd in the pre-show. So, excuse me. Sorry, it's been a long day already. So aside from that we didn't really get, other than that, the show on its own, I thought was great. You guys were very kind to it in the chat. A lot of 8.5s, a lot of Bs, B pluses, As. I'm going to give this show a B plus, and I'm going to give it an 8. 8 out of 10, and a B plus is what it gets for me. I think that's fair because even though it was great, it wasn't over the top great. So at the end of the day, though, AEW is going to look back on this show with great fondness. This is going to provide them with a lot of visuals for the future and a lot of video packages and that type of stuff. This is their first show. This is the first big show like this that they were able to do. Will there be more? Sure. I'm sure they will run a stadium again, but man, it's going to be hard to do that again. Unless maybe you book a bigger card or you have some sort of big dream match and then you book Wembley next year or 2 years from now, try to do it again, and this time try to do 90,000. You know, that might be a situation where you're going to, if you want to accomplish that, you're going to have to draw largely in part of maybe some of the matches on the card, where most of these tickets were sold before any matches were announced. Maybe next time, try to build to some epic main event that might actually help you attain that full 85,000 or 90,000 or whatever it is. But in my mind, 81K ain't bad. It's something to be incredibly proud of. It may very well be the most attended wrestling show in history. It may very well not be. We don't know. Bottom line is they made history here, regardless of what the final number is, and that's pretty awesome. So that concludes my results. I'll hang out with you guys here in the chat, clear my throat again because I'm struggling with that, and see if you guys have anything else to say. And we might read this update from Sean Ross Sapp as well. All right. Says Sean Ross Sapp just tweeted an update about that situation. I don't know if it's going to be over on Select. I can check that real quick. Let's see if we have any new information on CM Punk and Jack Perry here. Here we go. Okay, so this kind of reads like what the Fightful Select article says, but here's what Sean Ross Sapp tweeted 11 minutes ago. Here's the Cliff Notes for some clarity. CM Punk's side. From CM Punk's side, Jack Perry approached him, got in his face, bumped him, Punk shoved him, and choked him. Other accounts. Punk approached Perry, they exchanged words, Punk threw the first punch, grabbed a front face lock. It was broken up. So it sounds just a little bit more than the same exact type of fight that Chris Jericho and Goldberg had in WWE. So we have two sides to the story. Lots of people were there. There was lots of eyewitnesses. But the two glaring contradictions are who approached who first. And that's what it's all about. That's what I talked about earlier. You know, it's just all about what the facts are. If Perry stepped to Punk, he deserved everything he fucking got. If Punk stepped to Perry, that's incredibly irresponsible to do that and potentially risk something happening to you as your fucking music is playing and you're about to open a stadium show for the company that you work for. Nothing did happen, but hypothetically, what if you twisted your ankle like Vince did when Brett punched him out? And then you can't go out there and face Samoa Joe, but you're the opening match and Cult of Personality is playing in the loudspeakers right now. What do you do? It's not really the behavior of a leader. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we just need to know what all the facts are. There's multiple accounts, multiple sides, just like Brawl Out followed by Brawl In. We got a pay-per-view in a week. Again, more bullshit from AEW. I'm curious if anything was said about this in the scrum tonight. If anybody knows that, let me know. But yeah, that's your update there on the Punk Jack Perry brawl. What a wild scene. I'll tell you that, man. Anyway, let's see what you guys have to say here in the chat. I might have some super chats that I missed. I might not. Let's see. Oh, there's one. We got one from, Population 420 is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Just finished watching All In. My first AEW pay-per-view ordered. Wow. I've ordered them all. Have I been to one? Oh, yeah. I ordered them all except for Double or Nothing because I was there. But I use Bleacher Report or BR Live to order all of them. I've never had a single problem with it. I've never had one interruption, never buffering, nothing. So I just use that. I don't use Fight or anything else. But it shows you all of your purchases, and I can see the whole list. So however many there have been now, I've bought them all from AEW, and I can go back and watch them all too. So that's awesome. I'm glad you finally ordered one, and you picked one hell of a show to order. And YouTube's my second job, so I got no choice but to pony up another 50 next week for All Out. But that's life, man. 2 pay-per-views back to back. I don't know, man. That's rough. Oh, okay. So they already announced they are coming back to Wembley next year, August 25th, 2024. It is official. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Roger, for that information. They are coming back. So they're going to do it again next year. So we will see. We will see if my prediction is true. I have predicted several times that this probably is going to be the max on the attendance for them. I think 81,000 is incredible. And it's just unbelievable that they were able to do that many people. And I just can't see them doing more. But maybe the fans want to be a part of it. Maybe the fans want to make the sellout happen. So everybody's going to turn out and fill this place up next year. But I feel like it's going to be tough to break the record that they set here tonight. It's going to be really tough to do. But next year, who knows? A lot can happen if they put a good, really intriguing main event together, bringing somebody in. I don't know what they could do, but build something for that show that outdoes what you did here. That's what, if you're going to make that claim, or if you're going to make that stance now, and I said Tony Khan is probably going to announce right away, because that's what Tony does, that they're going to be back at Wembley next year. I don't think they were able to match what they did at Arthur Ashe the second time around, right? So I feel like it's always the first ones that hit the biggest. So we will have to see what kind of show they can present next year that will put a similar amount of people in the same building. But and we'll see if WWE counter runs them. You know, maybe they'll try to run Money in the Bank there again or something. Who knows? We'll see. Shell shock. I can't believe that any members of DX are wrestling. The fact that Billy Gunn is in the ring at all is just crazy. Nobody his age should really be looking like that or being able to do what he does. And him and Sting both. I don't know what water, what they're drinking or what kind of shit they're on, but it's working, man. Good to see Nick Steele in the house. Just reading through some of these comments here. Aaron Gothier, that is true. If I sat up here and rant and raved, I think I'd have a much bigger subscriber count. being rational doesn't seem to get as much engagement as being a raving fucking psychotic lunatic. But I'm just not willing to sell out like that. Yeah, what's your other matches for All Out? Thank you for that, bonkers. We get either Orange Cassidy or Penta versus Moxley at All Out, as well as Omega versus Takeshita. I think Omega versus Takeshita is a given. We also know it's going to be Luchasaurus and Darby Allin, if Darby Allin is okay from those coffin drop bumps he took tonight. Plus, I would think we're going to get a CM Punk match, MJF match, or both. Maybe MJF doesn't defend the title at all. Maybe him and Adam Cole just defend the Ring of Honor tags at All Out. They might just do that. Rematch with Odyssey Open or something like that. And then Punk does something else. But if they're going to book a champion versus champion match, I feel like that October 1st show that they announced would be a better spot for that than All Out coming up in just a few days. They're going to have a lot of shit to do on Dynamite if they're going to have to handle Fallout from All In, build a card to All Out, all in a 2-hour span. It's hard to really just tell appropriate stories in that short amount of time. So I don't know what we're going to see it All Out, but that's coming up 1 week from now. Damn, Straight Edge Mondo, here you are playing Cyberpunk 2077, whatever that is. Video game, probably. And you missed all, and realize you missed All Out. Well, you didn't miss All Out. That's next week. You missed All In. Yeah, and you are hearing right about a brouhaha, a real Donnybrook backstage between Jungle Boy and CM Punk. Details are sketchy. Details are conflicting. But I have maintained, I took 45 minutes to say something really simple. We talked about this in the beginning of the podcast, and I went on and on and on about it. But my message was, once we get all of the facts and we kind of know for sure what happened, because right now we have conflicting stories about who stepped to who, and that is at the root of it. Whoever went up to who, I believe, is at fault. Because if CM Punk approached Jungle Boy right before he's got to go out to the ring, that's irresponsible, and that's not how you handle that professionally. If Jungle Boy stepped to Punk, he's in the wrong for getting in his face right before he's got to go out there. So it sounds like either way, somebody was a huge dick. And it was either Punk or it was either Jungle Boy. And if it sounds like since Jungle was sent out, that might have been Jungle Boy's fault. He was punched. I don't know if he was choked out and beaten unconscious like some fans are going to want to think, but it was probably, like I said, like a Goldberg-Jericho situation, because that's all Jericho did to Goldberg. He just front face locked him so he couldn't move. That's all. If they would have gotten up on their feet and squared up, it might have been a different story, but it was just a front face lock. Jericho won the fight. Sounds like that's all CM Punk did. Even though CM Punk is a jabroni of a UFC fighter, he has real fighting experience. Jungle Boy does not, and that's going to spell disaster for him in any sort of a real shoot. And finally, us hearing about CM Punk actually winning a fight is kind of nice, because I don't think if CM Punk, even with the fighting experience, I think if CM Punk got into that same confrontation with Andrade, I think it would be very, very different. So CM Punk probably got the best of somebody that most people could, I should say. But interesting situation, to say the least. Just never ends. It's head scratch. It's kind of like it's head scratching, but it's just, just kind of makes you embarrassed that how you guys can have such a history-making show like this and accomplish so much and have the silliest little fucking problems behind the scenes that really shouldn't be there at all. It's morale, it's egos, and yes, it is true. It is leadership as well. Tony Khan's got people there. Bryan Danielson's been more involved in creative. He's got a head of talent relations now. You got people like Pat Buck and others there, but you need somebody there just to be the authority. But the problem is the authority is Tony Khan. That's him. He's the one with all the money. So I don't know how you set up your backstage environment in a leadership way that eliminates this stuff. I just don't. I don't know what the right answer is. But everybody needs to get along. That's for sure. Stop fighting each other. Stop fighting each other before you're going into the ring for pay-per-view matches. Free advice from Greg there. It goes from WWE too. Don't nobody be fighting. So crazy night in the business. Again, fun Sunday afternoon. I had to get up at 9 a.m. to start watching this thing, and it was great. And now, normally, this is the time we'd be going live for our classic watch-alongs, but we were committed to doing our
All In review. I thought it was a great show, enjoyed it. Cool to see a show of that magnitude outside of the WWE umbrella. Very awesome, and proud night to be a wrestling fan. So we will see what the fallout of this is going to be on Dynamite this week, and we'll take a look at the wrestling news and try to follow up a little bit on the Jungle Boy and CM Punk fight and all of that. And there might be more to discuss on that tomorrow. So I think the plan is to come up here tomorrow night after Raw, and we will do a Raw review. And we'll talk more about the fallout here from All Out, anything else we might have learned about the Jack Perry CM Punk situation. And of course, tomorrow night on Raw, WWE will probably heavily tribute Bray Wyatt there as well. So figured we should probably come up tomorrow and put a nice little bow on our long weekend of videos. And that is the plan. So thank you so much for being here. All of you, appreciate it. It's been 2 hours, 14 minutes. We've been flapping our gums about backstage fights and who's right and who's wrong and All In results and 80,000 people in attendance and butthurt tribal fans. We've had a great time here tonight. It's been fun. Thank you so much for being here. I will catch you guys a little over 24 hours from now. We'll be up here after Raw to discuss the show, and should be fun. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday night. I appreciate you being here, and we will see you tomorrow.